I know teachers right now are into their 40s who are still paying college loans off.
The people that aren't in education complain about what we're not doing in education. You're like, all right, so the people that are doing cool stuff, you almost have borderline a moral obligation to say, all right, this is what I'm doing then.
Let me ask you a very quick question. Is it easier to get a passport than it is to substitute teach?
Yep. Like, be lazy. Well, if I'm training people to be teachers, be lazy. Yeah, shut up and let them do it.
There's two emotions that I straddle, right? Is hope and worry. So I'm worried to death about kids, but I'm super hopeful about the future.
Education wants the instant gratification. They want the weeds. They don't want the trees.
CTE is coming gangbusters for the traditional, practitioners who don't want to even entertain moving things around for the sake of efficacy.
Do we need as much time as we need to do school?
I mean, if you're asking a 14-year-old, they're going to tell you a weekend will be fine. But no, I want to challenge kids.
If you're about to listen to this podcast, buckle up.
You're listening to the Disrupt Education podcast. Here are your hosts, Peter Hostrawser and Alli Dahl.
Welcome to the Disrupt Education podcast. Like I said, I just felt like saying it that way, Alli. How you doing?
That nice little emphasis.
Yeah, right. Podcast.
Mixing it up.
Yeah, we're wrapping up a series, but what's going on with you these days?
So, sometimes you podcast and you're like, I know you're going to ask me that. And so I'm like trying to think like what fits here, what have I been doing?
Gotten into a routine. What's going on?
Oh, it's good though. Like I like it because, it does force the creativity, or rather I take like a lens. I look at kind of experiences through a different lens as I'm preparing for a podcast. And so when we're recording this, it's, full school season, and it's like the start of when the honeymoon period starts to dissipate. So, but things start to get challenging for students. So like the first kind of like, this doesn't make sense. Like, oh, the teacher, we did something in class and I can't make sense of it. And so I've had some chemistry questions come in. I've had some, if you, even in middle school, kids are learning like the metric system for the first time. So learning about like centimeters and millimeters and kilometers and, milligrams and kilograms. And they're like, what is that? Like they don't have content, they don't have a place for it. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about, I'm obviously biased, but I believe that the method in which I teach those concepts roots them beyond a simple memorization system. And like when I'm thinking about disrupting education around like the way we go about teaching a topic is I'm not trying to teach something in a way that's like for a test. I'm trying to like globally think about this for a student and be like, how does this fit into their world, and like connect it and whatnot. And that is very individualized. Mm-hmm. It is requires me to know who I am working with, and like that's how I get the best results. And when we think about this series of, practitioners at every level in the educational system, which I just love that we did that for this series.
That was awesome.
Amazing. I think about how each of them are at the core are really doing individual localized work, and that's truly disruptive because you're meeting people where they're at, and that is just not done. It's becoming like it's not done. Like I think of the one room schoolhouse and how that teacher would probably have to go around and like talk to every single student and like individualize and move each student forward, or like give them a task. And like now we want everybody to be on the same page on the same day at the same time in the same place, and like it's so just robotic.
Yeah.
And that is not disrupting education. And so like I feel like this series did a really good job of how do we kind of go back to, in my mind, this individualized, localized, very intentional way of doing education.
Masterclass in disruption. That's, it was, and we did take a lot of our policy innovators. We really started to I mean, dig deep into, we kind of leveled, right? We went from an overall coach. I mean, Kristy has been on before. She's amazing. And then we brought it kind of down into an admin level. We didn't quite go down, I shouldn't say down, but into like the classroom, but it's kind of the overall view because I think a lot of things, especially as our educators and leaders in education, really start to take a look, there's misconception at these levels. And I think that there are what we try to do is really kind of show that this is what innovation looks like at a different level, like outside of inside of a classroom, and how it all relates to it. And people who are working with or within teams of educators and students and community members. And I really like that. I mean, we went from, Kristy was really looking at, I'm just going to give a brief overview and we'll dive in, but like Kristy kind of went into like the EduVitality piece of what does it look like tearing down silos. Then we went to Dr. Skeen, Virginia, the Commonwealth, if you remember. Really, and in his quote, I'll let you say it because I know you love this quote, but really about what the whole like a lab network can do. Obviously, Scott Carr, we've had him on before. He's a good buddy of ours. And really kind of looking at what CESA 2 in Wisconsin is doing. And then we found Jeff Stenroos, like who is doing something in Wisconsin at the district level. But I liked how we kind of ended it off with Dr. Karen Baptiste from like the prison pipeline. We kind of bounced back out and I was like, this is why, like this is it. So let's dive in. Where do you want to start with that?
I mean, I do like that we did that series. We did not record them in that order, but we put them in that order to give that like level perspective for the series. I like when podcasters tell you like stuff like that. So
yeah. Well, yeah, right.
A little behind the curtain stuff. But we actually built this series and then like put them in a completely different order than we recorded them in because it felt like, oh, Kristy needs to start this series of disruptors and innovators and people who are really, like creating systemic change.
Yep.
And she's like more at this global level, community level, looking at it holistically, like, but also she's not doing it for like a blanket, like the United States needs this. She's all about going in and talking to a community and figuring out like what do they need. But I like thinking of Kristy as a translator and from the school building, which has somehow become so isolated from the community, or it can be, it doesn't have to be. But with industry and community is like, they're like talking the same thing, but like in different languages. And so someone like Kristy that can come and translate and get everybody on the same page and realize, hey, we're all like trying to work towards the same goals of this really rich, deep, community, and it's all working together. That's the type of work that Kristy's doing. And then we looked at it from a state level, a district, like a regional level, a district level, and then like kind of a personal level to bring it all there.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I mean, I would love like let's just jump in to kind of quickly go through each one and then really kind of sum this up because really each one of these, and I really do, we've talked about this a lot, like each one of these are a masterclass. This series is like if we wanted to check boxes and give credit, we would, right? I don't know, maybe somebody at the state level or national level can do that, but really it really is when you're and highly suggest connecting with these people. We connect with everyone on this list, especially through LinkedIn, but check out their websites and those types of things. And I can guarantee you our listeners will find one thing or one person out of this entire series that they can dig into either, read some blogs or connect with all these folks. That is why we do it. And we were talking about this right before we started recording this podcast. It works. That's the best part. So, but Kristy and I, it was funny because when we did this, and I know Scott Carr is on this series as well. We all three were like right in Wisconsin at a in the Dells at a presentation and working on some things. I got to see both of them firsthand do what they do and work with schools. So Kristy really, yeah, like contained learning to like community vitality. That's kind of her big thing. She's really, really adamant about not in this. I don't know if this came out, but it comes out in a lot of our conversations with her and her posts is not conforming to checkbox. Like there's a lot of mindset behind what she does, because she's just like we just don't do this because we have to do it. Do it because we need to grow as a community and not set like check boxes and just say, okay, well, an entry level position is okay. And now that's experience. She's really adamant about that. And I love that about her. So you can read between the lines, read her blogs, and those types of things. But really, that's what contained learning is. I think one of the things that she talks about is contained learning, and then the difference is moving it and shifting it to purposeful community learning and connected is really advancing people, advancing socioeconomics, advancing. You don't have to move out of a rural area or a smaller area to do that. And she really hit that on the head when she started talking about like the civics projects and going into communities and saying let's start here, right? Yeah, let's not just put a kid into a fast food restaurant and call that work-based learning without anything else there. And like I said, and I know I said this on her podcast, I show her video the difference between work-based learning and just work to our internship students. I legitimately, like you explained it the best. So you guys can do that. Everybody can do that. I mean, it's on her YouTube channel, and you can pick it. And you can use it to talk to your community. You can use it to talk to your admin. You can be admin and talk to your teachers about. It's right there. That's what I love about Kristy.
Yeah. I can't remember if this was on her episode or we do talk to Kristy a lot. That'll probably become clear as maybe around the time this podcast comes out, but I'm not sure we can talk about it yet. So anyway, but her and I talk a lot about you cannot be what you cannot see.
Yeah.
And we can't assume that kids have networks outside of school that could, get them into a certain field. And so without education kind of creating opportunities for kids to see themselves in different roles and also expand their networks, we're just setting them up for unfulfilled, potentially underfulfilled lives. Like it's missed opportunity. It just is, because that can totally be a part of the K through 12 experience. So her work totally does that, and I love that her and Scott both talk about this idea that you gotta reinvent how you promote the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
You have to make it visible, and you have to talk about it. And how you talk about it matters. And because it's really hard, and she says this, it's really hard to kill something when it's in your face.
Yeah.
And you talk about this a lot on LinkedIn about like, how should we rank schools? How should we, how should we promote our programs? And it's not with school rankings, and it's not with how many AP and IB classes kids take or their test scores, right? Like all of that is in the type of work that Kristy's doing and a lot of our guests are doing. And it's just, that is a systemic shift that I don't think before this series, actually, I'll say I did not realize was a tool school districts could use to their advantage to rewrite their own stories.
Yeah.
That's what I think was like the biggest thing. Like across everybody, and just talking about it right now is just you can decide how you want to share what your school is doing and how it's uplifting the community and how it all ties together. And it doesn't have to be the school ranking report.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's actually changing the way that we're doing it in Naperville. We're starting to talk about how do we actually start showing public so our profile of a learner. And we're bringing out like in each and every piece that we do in our internship program and, in our CTE programs, et cetera, et cetera. Even, it can be in anything like how does communication come in? How does problem solving, adaptability, and all those pieces? And yeah, there, you guys, trust me, follow some Naperville 203 career internship on LinkedIn, and you're going to see again and steal the ideas. Oh my gosh, steal the ideas, because we these aren't all just ours. We're taking them in, and that was great that Kristy kind of opened that like, hey, put it in people's face, and now we're going statewide. With Dr. Skeen, who was again one of those amazing guests that reached out, went to disrupteducationpodcast.com, filled it out, the request to be a guest. And actually, I got to give props to you, Allie, because you were like, this is an interesting thing that they're doing in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I have to say it that way. I just like
I
that.
know, it's so
Seems
good.
so old school. But they were talking about the ODU Lab School Network. There were 9 new innovation schools evolving in the state of Virginia. I'm going to save his quote for you because I know I love this quote. And this was a game changer, I think. But yeah, go ahead with Dr. Skeen.
Well, so it's not the best practice, it's the next practice. And what a cool like way to approach
Yeah.
this. And then also, I will say my second favorite is they always ask the question of how is this different? Right?
Yes.
Like it really gets at the heart of their work. I think
Hmm.
those were two really, really powerful statements Gary made on the podcast.
Yep.
And I the thing that I love about what Gary and the team out in Virginia is doing is
Hmm.
that they want to be visible. They
Yes.
want to be leaders. They want people to know about their work. Like, and it just comes across so clearly if you go back and listen to that episode. And that that is a shift, right? Like I don't hear a lot of programs, and for whatever reason, like marketing their programs in a way that it gets it out there because it's like it ties in to Kristy, like, make it super visible, like get
Hmm.
it on podcasts, get it on you're in your community, newsletters, emails, social media, like get it out there because we want to hear about this kind of stuff. And I say we like people in education, like
Yeah.
we all want to know, like, how are you doing this? How can we innovate? And how can we shift this type of work to make it nationwide? Like,
Hmm.
right? Like, and I love their passion and what they're doing in that, like, we were heads down for a while figuring it out, and we still don't have it all figured out. But
Hmm.
now we're in a place where we can talk about this, and like we do want to be leaders in educational innovation and do it in real time. They have real time R&D. I love
Hmm.
that,
Yeah.
and it's just that is what's so exciting about this is a state level. Like
Hmm.
they're doing it across the state of Virginia. This isn't one sector. I was like, I mean, they had so many, and I'm sure we just touched the surface of all the different
Yeah.
types of schools that they have, but it was really based on what does our state need and where, and how do we all work together towards filling those needs in our state.
Yeah, exactly. And connecting like with Kristy again, like you said, it's hard to kill that something when it's always in your face. And then when you do this big enough, and you're really looking at just giving like the state giving or this Board of Ed or whatever your state education programs look like, are really giving them the leeway to really test these bold ideas. And test is the key word here, because you're right. He did say we don't have it all figured out. It's because it's a lab, right?
Hmm.
I like the lab school network. I just like lab network. I mean, we've talked to, and I'll give a quick shout out to Simon and Jeff from, Leaf Lab, like the Agile Learning lab workshop, and it's a lab. It's not a school. Like, I think that's an amazing part, because guess what? Like in at this post-secondary level, right? There's a lot of research. I was listening to a podcast of one of my good buddies, Uzair Hussein, who was on our podcast a few years ago, but is doing some amazing things with District Zero in the healthcare area, was talking to me about, the UC Berkeley and Dartmouth. They were on a podcast, their presidents, and they were talking about this. Like the research is where the fun stuff happens, and
Yeah.
we can teach basics alongside where there's experiences that, and I know Dr. Skeen really zeroed in a little bit on healthcare experiences for that. Really about, it's not all about just, helping people in just a medical way. It's about practice. It's like saving time. It's like how do we make this more affordable for people? And in all of that, we'll go back to what Kristy was kind of bringing out, and what we've been talking about is how do we clarify direction, career direction early on
Hmm.
these things, and then again being that model, that North Star, which is awesome. Do you know what rhymes with star?
Huh.
Scott
Carr.
Carr.
We're going there.
Yeah, I had a 2 cup coffee a day. So we did move into Scott Carr, and again, like I said, yeah, my dad jokes are killing today. The We did, like I said, Kristy, Scott, and I were working on a presentation and things together, kind of at the beginning of this whole series. And it's really, I mean, Scott's just, he was not buying what schools are selling. And I think that's where he got his start. I love his
Mhm.
story. And then he just started figuring out different ways in quote unquote special education, which semantics, I got to throw a little bit, there's a lot in here because we've been really, I do want to throw a little, Jason Van Nuss is doing a ginormously awesome series on semantics and terms that we use in education. So special ed, when I say that, if you're not watching me, I have the quotes up. So that's where Scott Carr got his start into really not buying what schools are selling. So what were your thoughts on Scott and CESA too?
I mean, his uh my favorite quote of his is don't let it be just words on a page, because it does tie into uh what this whole series is kind of coming down to. Like, we can spend all day, every day, writing manifestos about what education should be. And, like I felt like that was what a lot of district policy was when I was
Hmm.
full-time teaching. It was like, we need to have a committee so we can write this policy so that we can like put it out to the people so then they can like do this policy. And it felt like a lot of words on pages that didn't really mean a whole lot. I mean, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so when we're doing the type of work with students and we're trying to make big changes, we have to get away from spending all of our time writing down how we're going to do it
Hmm.
and just do it.
Yeah.
I will counter that with Scott also does say, he says, if you're not willing, though, to do a discovery process for over a year, then you're really not ready to make change.
Hmm. Yep.
Because and that's important. Like, he's not necessarily saying like, well, we're going to do a year of writing things down. The discovery process is very action based. However, it's action based in your mind.
Right.
A lot of this work, you have to be willing and you have to be culturally like as a community willing to do this work. And if you're not willing to discover what the work is, like what the work really is, and
Hmm.
get on the same page, like you're not ready for it. And so I do like that Scott will say, he doesn't hold this as like, oh, they're both of those statements can be true.
Hmm.
And that, once you do figure out the work, it does spiral, it does grow. And yeah, like Scott is one of those people that, they'll like sit back, lean back, and they'll just like observe and won't say anything. Like that's what I picture. I can't say I've like actually like seen Scott do this, but I just like I get the impression that when he gets called in, he's there, he's observing, and he's not gonna like say anything until prompted. And then he will say exactly what should have been said hours ago.
Yeah.
Years ago. He's just he just has his, I don't know the phrase I'm looking for, but like he has a pulse like on what needs to change very
Hmm.
quickly because his background is basically like this is all fluff, this isn't working, like, we don't need this. He can cut right to what you need. But he does that through careful observing,
Yeah.
and he has his mind right and he knows what it takes to get other people's minds right around this type of work. So it's so rich, his episode, like so many layers to it.
Hmm.
You got to listen to it like more than once to really pull it out. um
Yeah. No.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there were a few things that I really liked that were a little bit shocking at the beginning, like throw out the playbook, like what? And then, I gave my football analogy. My father was a football coach, he was a football coach. And you start to take a look at, okay, the playbook says this. Well, guess what? Everybody's figured out the playbook and actually how to play the playbook. And I think that's kind of where this whole conversation went. And it's interesting because kind of in a parallel to what you just kind of described as, yeah, you can put all this stuff on paper, and it looks good on paper, and you can show outcomes. Again, I'm back with my quotes again. But what is the actual real impact, right? And there's a few ways that I actually work with students and districts and departments on this is really, okay, outcomes are pretty easy, right? It's like you can cover your eyes, and if the answers are in a question that is multiple choice A, B, or C, and you just circle one, you got a 33% chance of just an outcome that works. And okay, right, what does that mean? We really see it in our internship program, literally right now when we're taping this episode, because a lot of our students are getting accepted and hired into internships, and they're scared. And that's a good thing, but they don't realize it's a good thing because on paper, like we do classwork, we are dual credit, we check the boxes, and actually it's pretty deep mindset work that College of DuPage has given us. So I don't want to like, just, throw it out the window. It's good mindset stuff, but then it gives us our kids something to go back to after they've done their experience, but they need that experience. That experience and what we pull out of that is impact. It's not an outcome. 60 hours, that's an outcome. I worked for an accounting firm. That's an outcome. Let's go for impact. How did you feel about this? What was something that struck you as I did not know about this? What is something that you like about this area of work? What is something that you're like, wait, I don't want to do that part of accounting and finance? That's impact. And that's what we really talk with our students. Today was our first time they were in class. We're on a blended model, talk about innovative, but it's a blended model. And students were saying, for instance, we had a veterinarian science student who was got to actually, I mean, it's not a great story because he found cancer cells in the blood of a dog, but they let him do that, right? This is a senior in high school. working with a veterinarian. And he was like, although the outcome was not what I wanted it to be, I was excited that I was able to at least start a process to help this animal and its owners. And then I'm like, okay, kids, students, interns, you are all, and they're all seniors, a couple juniors. I'm like, you're going to start doing your college applications. Let's think about this. Let's think about two people going to a high-end veterinarian science program. And you somebody's going to write this down for their college essay. I really love animals. I have 3 dogs. I'm in the animal group at school. I do really well in bio and chem, and I've gotten straight A's in there, and I really want to be a part of your program. And then let's look over here. By the way, that was outcome. This is impact. I was able to look at a slide and understand that there is cancerous cells in this dog's blood cells while working with a veterinarian. And after a conversation with the veterinarian told me it's not all this bad all the time. That far outweighs the really devastating news that you have, but you have these instances where you have to actually start to prepare people and help them understand what's the next level of care for their animal. And I got to experience that. That's impact. That's your difference right there. And every one of the students were like, oh, right. And this was early on, like we're only a couple of weeks in, but this is why I want. So this is what Scott was talking about. I live it every day. I really love it. And yeah, Scott's really, kind of throughout the playbook, what works here now for these learners. But guess what? It's going to take time to build that. You can't just snap a finger and just pop these things. It's experience that works with that. And I got to meet in that whole place in the Dells was Jeff Stenroos at Beloit. And man, district level. What do you like about Jeff?
Well, he said that he doesn't disrupt education, he just adjusts it.
Yeah.
We disagree with him. We totally think he's disrupting
Yeah.
education. So I think what's awesome about Jeff after coming off of Scott's episode and Gary and Kristy's is that this is a district, and Jeff being a director of CTE and alternative education is that you can see now a district that has done the mindset work.
Mm-hmm.
They have done the journey. They have created academies and pathways, and they have linked up with industry and community, and they have someone in the district in the position you need, a quarterback type position with Jeff, to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like it can all be in the clouds, and then we want to give our listeners like this type of work is happening. It is possible, and it's like so localized because Jeff talks about the industries that they work with because they're in Beloit, Wisconsin, not because they're in Minneapolis, Minnesota, or Chicago, Illinois, or New York, or wherever, right? Like what's so cool is that their work is partnering with the people around them. And he shares about how like it really did take one of the big companies in the area to alter their own policies.
Yep.
To allow students to come in and be able to do this type of work. And we've heard this time and time again on the podcast with people who are in kind of, they're really trying to disrupt education and bring kids outside of the traditional walls, is that like once industry realizes that they can and it's allowed and like the laws are there and it's just information, like we get scared of what we don't know. And so we just keep doing things how we always have done them. But once you start to give people the okay, like it is okay, it does become this avalanche of change. And that's what's cool about the work in Beloit, is that they're really starting to be at the avalanche portion of their work. Like they started it in like 2018, it's 2025. And a lot of this type of work does take time. But what I will say is I think for districts and stuff that started this work between like 2010 and 2018, they're now like in this kind of like growth exponential growth probably phase of their work. But I don't think somebody starting in 2025, it would take as long because the playbooks,
Yeah.
so to speak, are already out there. Like people have built this type of capacity. We've heard it from, guest after guest in different areas and different communities. And so because there's more and more tools in the toolbox for kind of doing school differently, while you will need to create your own playbook, you can't just like use someone else's because it's not your community, it's not your students, it's not your learners. You can get further faster because probably a lot of the groundwork and what doesn't work has already been figured out.
Yeah.
So that was what was really cool about Jeff coming off of Scott and like seeing it is they are disrupting education, but they are also adjusting it and they have this like really great yes person in the spot you need the yes person in most districts.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I will say again, yeah, I've been in 6 different districts, searching for, right fits, and sometimes they're right fit for a while, and then, maybe cultures change because of leadership change and et cetera and all that. But yes, I definitely have lived, with, school cultures and that are like we need to do it this way or the highway. We're not changing the status quo, blah blah blah. And hey, look, at the end of the day, if the people of that community really want that, then they get it, right? And if there's no pushback or anything like that, then they're going to get it. What I really liked about Jeff was, again, like you said, that yes culture, that when I have been empowered as an educator and the teams that we work together on these really innovative things, which, remember, going back to Dr. Skeen, innovation is like, is it really different? What makes us different? And innovation can be a cutesy term that is something that's just like, we're innovative. And yeah, you might have just, started school a little bit later in the day. It's not real innovation. Like that, these are like really deeper innovations where you are building these vertical alignments with the district, the educators. Everybody has access to industry, and industry has access. So we're breaking down walls, and that's innovative. And that's what I really liked, with Jeff, and just being a leader. And again, he's ready to retire. Like, remember, I was trying to get him to stay on for a while in that episode. But to have somebody like keep going at that level, in that many years there's no burnout there. You guys are seeing this, right? If you're in education and you're not like really choosing to have fun and choosing joy, which is something that our next guest was talking about, and really tearing down these walls. Because I think this, with Dr. K coming in to kind of round out the series, she really starts talking about, like, I mean, it was interesting, the prison to pipeline concept, and I really don't think it's theory. I think it's real in a lot of places. I think that it's been talked about, but we kind of all unpacked everything. And she was really talking about choosing joy and really understanding, belonging and purpose rather than compliance and checkbox, because that's what they do in a traditional correctional facility, right? And man, that conversation went an interesting angle. I didn't know where it was going to go. But yeah, let's talk about Dr. K.
I mean, she is all about pioneering possibilities. That is the name of her company. And one of the things that her work does, and it's really powerful for this whole series, is how do you look at something different that you look at every day? So, right, like if you're in education, you're looking at it every day, and it can be difficult to see what you look at every day in literally a different light. And so it's just easy to stay stuck in a way of thinking, a way of doing things, and get rooted in that, and it's not moving anything forward. Paired with, she was like, and brought the facts that like the number one thing that is the influence of student achievement is teachers and teacher efficacy. So you want to disrupt education, you have to have happy teachers, because happy teachers have happy students. And that's what moves the needle. And so it's like, if people aren't joyful at work, right, which is where you spend a lot of time, and if that isn't like the mode in which you're doing any of this work, is like, how does this work bring us joy? Then like you're missing the point of the series, because I think a joyful school then flows out and you have a joyful community. And if you have a joyful community, then like the people working in the community want to stay in that community, and it just tied everything like so wonderful together. Like I was at dinner last night with some friends, and their daughter is in chemistry, and I lit up like a Christmas tree because I love chemistry. Literally, like I love it. It brings me so much joy to look at it, to think about it. Like it's my puzzle. I I can look at it and it just makes sense in my brain, right? Like I can't explain it. It brings me inner joy. To most people, they're like, "What?" Like they have the opposite reaction. And like, so when I was in the school full time, I can tell you that like teaching the subject, kids would always tell me, I love how much you love it. Like they would just be like, you love talking about water and the periodic table and chemical reactions and stoichiometry and all this stuff. And they're right. Like I was that could I have done more of like bringing it out to the community? Absolutely. But you want to know what? I get messages to this day of students who love finding chemistry in their lines of work because it reminds them of the joy they experienced in my classroom. And there's no greater feeling than knowing, at least when I was in the classroom, I was joyful, because that probably made a bigger impact in disrupting education than any other thing. So it's like, whatever level you're at, how can you bring joy into the work that you're doing? Because if it's not joyful, it's not going to be impactful at the level that you want it to be.
Yeah. I go back through all of our guests thinking about this, but I really like how Dr. K's really kind of summed it up, and it's not pipelines to prison, but pipelines to purpose, and that was kind of a human-centered piece, and really. And I've had these conversations, and I can't remember if we talked about this on the podcast or right after. We have crazy discussions afterwards. We should record. We should just have after the post podcast. I don't know. We'll work on that. But we were doing the mock interviews, and everybody who was mock interviewing from a company standpoint, helping our students understand how an interview works, etc., by experiencing it, said the same thing, and Dr. K just rounded it up is these human-centered systems. They need to be restorative, human-centered, because everything else is just going to be AI, right? Like it's you can check the box, you can contain what you need to contain with artificial intelligence, period. Like hard stop. And the skills that we really need to bring to our youth and our educators and everybody are these human-centered skills that, there is empathy, there is understanding, there is listening, like you said, Scott Carr, the greatest listener in the world. I'm going to let him know that. Scott, you're the greatest listener in the world. But like you have to listen and really take it in and individualize it as much. I mean, look, there's going to be checkboxes in every system. But I think, what Dr. K was really, she was like, right? Isn't this common sense? Like happy workers, happy people make better human beings. And so how then do we UX design this entire thing to be more human centered. And I've said that so many times. And I think, okay, all the way through, like going through, you have to UX design everything. So when you start to take a look at, Kristy, Dr. Gary, Scott, and all the, Jeff and Dr. K, like every level has to understand what are we doing every day that is blocking things from being innovative, and then let's figure out how to remove those as much as we can. There are some things we can't control, and please don't go trying to control something you can't control. And really starting to understand people where they are at that moment, what they're curious about, and let's build it. Because every piece of education, like you said, this reminds me of chemistry in my job. Well, that was a piece of joy that you brought to that person, and guess what? They remembered the chemistry part. Duh. It's not like, I mean, I can remember doing some things in chemistry, although I did not have the priv, but I did like remember Miss Parker like going through a couple of things, and I remember like there was this interaction of heck, whatever it was, but I just remember seeing it, and then when I see like this white smoke, I always think about this. So it's joyous, right? And guess what? I got a C in the class. It wasn't like I was like the ace. So kind of going through all of these and rounding out with Dr. K, kind of pulling that pipeline to purpose rather than pipeline to prison. I mean, we're talking about, really durable skills, right? So those are, how do we measure those? Those are impact. What's happening with our students to where they are performing within their community and or experiencing in their communities. That's where kind of the localized, it's not one place, what we're the education quote checkbox in California cannot be the same checkbox in Iowa. It just can't. It's you need to localize this. Really obviously belonging, right? And I do want to give a shout out to CJ Reynolds, Real Rap with Reynolds. I think he's back in the classroom now. So look him up, follow him. He's doing some amazing, like really belonging and purpose. He's built classrooms and different things like that. We got to connect with him again. Just saw a couple of his stuff on Instagram. It makes me laugh, like the stuff he does with students. And I'm like, you don't have to be funny in the classroom, but like he's just making it fun. And then at the end of the day, it's, if you're going to talk the talk, you actually have to walk the walk. And I think we all know in education, sometimes it's a title page and there's nothing in that book. I mean, it's flashy. We may have the great facade of whatever, but what's happening within that community, like you said, happy communities, happy schools, they are one and the same. And how do we start to pull those things into the forefront? And this entire series, and in my opinion, was amazing. We never know how these series are going to go, but it really kind of just puts all those things together. Yeah, tell me the final thoughts. I haven't said that in a while, so final thoughts from Alli.
Thoughts. Well, I will say this, like I kind of said earlier in the episode, is that, this type of work, figure out ways to make it visible and talk about it and share the stories, and because that's how impact really does get out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then this series and our summer series with the students and young adults is really building into our next one. And Peter and I have felt for a long time that what are the best ways we can really impact students, especially students that are about to get out of the K through 12 system, and set them up for success. And we felt it so heavily this summer listening to our young people that that's kind of how this fall series, end of summer, beginning of fall series came about. And it also is what is leading us into kind of the next series that is going to finish out this year. And me and you do plan. Like we do like kind of think about what is really impacting us and education right now. And that's how we have gone about developing series and finding guests or them finding us and then kind of it kind of moving. But this year feels different because it's like the series not only built on each other, but it was all trying to find the best ways, multiple ways. There's not one way, but to really impact anybody at any point in their journey and help them take the next step.
Mhm.
And it's like it goes beyond K through 12 education because it can be at any point in your life. And let me just say that I wish I had what we're about to dive into when I was in high school. And like I've never been more excited for a series. I was like, and seeing how this current series that we're ending, and I'm like sad to say goodbye to it. But like how it is all building to this kind of like very, I would say, climactic end of 2025. We've never done anything like this.
But
It's
it's a partnership, and I'm excited about partnering on this series coming up. I think, at the end of the day, what we want to hear from our listeners is, what is something that you can start, just start something. What is something that somebody started and really wants to shout out in their school? I know for me, the reason why, again, that I started the podcast was frustration, and I just wanted to shout out to the world that, hey, there are things here that suck and we need to fix them. And we know there's educators out there doing this, and that I think is our first challenge. And I think, we want to invite everybody to share their stories. What kind of projects, what kind of partnerships with the community, with our disrupt education community, do you want to share? And that's really where our next series is going to go. I mean, this did not just happen. This partnership that you'll hear about what we're doing, and you'll probably see a guest that's been on a few times. Just kind of, throwing these things out there, Allie, but these things really, the next series that we're about to do, and the partnership that we have formed, is a culmination of exactly what a small flame, a conversation, hey, let's try this, a couple of meetings, let's do this, let's figure this out, and act on ideas. And this is what is coming from it. So we're actually not just sitting here on a podcast talking about education and just saying you should do this, you should do this. We are actually doing it, and that's how this evolved. So I'm very excited about what's coming next. And I think Allie and I can't really say it enough. Thank you all for being listeners, and really just tuning in weekly. Whether you're catching up, whether this is in 2026 and you're hearing it, but that's fine. I mean, hopefully the playbook hasn't changed too much. But we really appreciate you. Really want to encourage you to hit that subscribe, share this out. We are hitting milestones, but that's only because of our listeners and supporters. And we also want you to check out disrupteducationpodcast.com. You can find the podcast there or on any platform, and really kind of put your 2 cents in there, and if you want to be a guest, fill it out. We have a lot, but we mentioned a lot of different things that are happening within there. And follow us on LinkedIn as well. Connect with Allie and I and the podcast, and we have some crazy conversations there as well. So super, super excited about our next partnership. I am too, Allie, a little bummed that this series is ending. I always have that little tinge at the end of every series, but you can always go back and constantly learn. So And that's really the way to act on it and disrupt education. So for Alli Dahl, I'm Peter Hostrawser. Really appreciate everyone listening and tuning into the podcast. Keep innovative, keep innovating, keep adjusting like Jeff, and keep disrupting. We'll catch you next week on the Disrupt Education podcast.
Thank you for joining us on the Disrupt Education podcast. If you found today's conversation valuable, we'd appreciate it if you subscribed and shared it with someone on their own learning journey. We're also excited to announce our new career coaching services, where you can work directly with Peter and Alli to clarify your path and showcase your unique value. Visit disrupteducationpodcast.com to learn more. Until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and keep disrupting education.